Hey everybody, how you doing today? Superfiend here, and welcome back to Blender Basics, where the goal is to teach you enough about Blender to start making your own custom models and creations. Today I'm going to show you some shortcut keys and talk about how to navigate the 3D view. To demonstrate how shortcuts work in Blender, we'll use a large 3D view that has its toolbox open on the left and its properties are open on the right. T will toggle the toolbox and N will toggle the properties. However, in Blender, keyboard shortcuts are context sensitive to the area or control that is under the mouse. So now that we have two 3D views open, T and N will only affect the 3D view that is under the mouse cursor. F5 is the user shortcut for making headers or side panels swap to their other orientation. So with headers, we could go flip to top, flip to bottom, and flip to top down here. Or we can move the properties onto the left side and the toolbox onto the right side. There are two shortcuts you can use in Blender to make an area occupy more of the Blender workspace. The first is ctrl+up, which will make the area under the cursor occupy most of the Blender window and leave the info bar visible, and that works on any of the areas. The second is alt+F10. It does exactly the same thing, except now there is no info bar. And if you wish for Blender to go full screen and use up all of your monitor real estate, use alt+F11. Let's start learning how to navigate and use the 3D view with various shortcuts. I recommend watching this section once and then watching it again while following along a few times to reinforce this behavior. Use a single right click to select the objects in your scene. So we can select the cube, the camera, or the light source. If you wish to toggle selection, hold down the Shift key while selecting with the right mouse button. Notice as I select multiple objects, the last object selected has the lightest color and the other objects are a darker orange. That means that the lamp is the active object of the selection. If we wanted to change the active object to the cube, I could hold Shift and click on the cube. Now the lamp becomes dark and the cube becomes lighter. And we could change it to the camera or back to the cube, or even click the cube again using the right mouse button to remove it from the selection. And we could do that with any of these objects. A right click drag will pick an object up in the 3D view and it begins to follow the cursor. In order to cancel this movement, right click again or press escape. If you left click or press enter, then it will confirm the movement. To rotate your 3D view with the mouse, use the middle mouse button by clicking and holding and then moving the mouse. If instead you hold down Shift, then you'll pan and move the objects in the scene that way. If you want to make everything visible again, go ahead and press Home on your keyboard and it will make all the objects visible. It will not, however, change the orientation of the axes. Use the mouse wheel by scrolling up or down to zoom in and out, or hold down Ctrl and use the middle mouse button, moving the mouse up or down. The small reticle at the center of the 3D view is called the 3D cursor, and you can reposition it with the left mouse button. I'm going to go ahead and move it way over here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. If you want to reposition the 3D cursor at the center, use shift+s, which opens a snap menu, and you'll want to select Cursor to Center. If instead you want to recenter the cursor and view everything in your scene, simply use shift+c. If you zoom in on an object very far, then there's a good chance that your ability to pan and rotate may become limited. I'm going to keep scrolling in with the mouse wheel until it's barely zooming. Now when I hold down Shift and try to pan, we can see that it takes a lot of mouse movement to move the 3D view. At this point, if I go ahead and press the full stop or period on my number pad, it will reset the zoom level at this object and allow me to pan and rotate normally the way I would expect. It's also the same as if you press the home key. It basically resets how much your mouse movement is going to translate to movement within the 3D view on Blender. The shortcut key to toggle between selecting everything or selecting nothing is the A key. And right now, while we're in object mode, it will select or deselect all the objects in our scene. If I right click on a single cube and switch to edit mode, Then A will toggle between selecting or deselecting all the different components of this 3D object. And the shortcut key to go between object mode and edit mode is Tab. So while we're in edit mode, we can see the individual vertices on this 3D object. And if I press Tab to go back to object mode, they disappear. And A will then select or deselect everything in the scene. If your mouse cursor drifts off the 3D view over the panels, then A is the shortcut key for collapsing or expanding panels. The number pad on your keyboard has lots of useful shortcuts, but before looking at them, we need to know the difference between perspective and orthographic projections within the 3D view. The 3D view is currently in perspective mode, and we can see that by the label on the top left that says User Persp. And what this means is that the 3D view will behave as real life, the way our vision works. That means that if we take this cube and move it further away, it gets smaller, or if we move it closer to us, it gets larger. If we reposition it back at the center, and we go to View, View, Persp, Ortho, then the 3D view will change to an orthographic projection. Now as we move the cube closer to us, or further away, it doesn't change size. And we can reinforce this by creating a duplicate of the cube, and as we move the duplicate away, it remains the same size in orthographic projection. However, when we select View, Persp, Ortho again, we can see that the cube that's closer in the 3D view appears larger, even though the two cubes are the same dimensions. Learning the keyboard shortcuts on the number pad can seem a little bit confusing or daunting at first. However, if you learn them while keeping in mind the physical orientation of the keys on a number pad, they become quite intuitive and make a lot of sense. I'd like to call your attention to the label User Persp at the top left of the 3D view. That means that the perspective is one of my own choosing, which is done by rotating and panning the 3D view. The number pad keys 1, 3, and 7 will change to different recognized views in Blender. So keep an eye on this little label as I press 1 to look at the front, 3 to look at the right, and 7 to look at the top of my model. Now as soon as I begin to rotate or move the camera on my own, it changes back to user perspective. Now the simple and easy way to remember which view 1, 3, and 7 will take you to, 7 is the top because of those three keys, it's above them. It's on top of the 1 and 3. The 3 key will show you the right side of your model, and that's easy to remember because it's on the right side of the number pad in relation to those 3 keys. And if top and right are already accounted for, then 1 must simply be the front of your model. Now that you know that 1, 3, and 7 will show you the front, right, or top of your model, it's easy to remember that holding down Control and pressing the same key will show you the opposite face. So if 1 will show you the front, Control 1 will show you the back, Control 3 will show you the left instead of the right, and Control 7 will show you the bottom instead of the top. And I'll demonstrate that now. Control 1 will go to the back, Control 3 goes to the left, and Control 7 goes to the bottom. If you wish to see the other side of the model from one of those views, press 9. So if we press 1 to look at the front, we see front perspective, pressing 9 will take us to the back. If we press 7 to go to the top, we can press 9 to switch back and forth between the top and the bottom, or the right and the left. The keyboard shortcut to switch between perspective and orthographic projection in the 3D view is the 5 key on the number pad. And now that you know about 1, 3, 7, and 5, it's really easy to create multiple 3D views and view your model from every possible orientation. We're going to go ahead and press 1, 3, and 7 to change each of these 3D views to front, right, and top. And then over each of them, press 5 to switch each 3D view to orthographic projection. And you can see now, we can see and edit our model from all the main angles that you could view it at. Now let's draw our attention to the 4, 6, 2, and 8 keys. Notice that they each have a little arrow on them, and that will help us remember exactly what the keys do in the 3D view. 4 and 6 will rotate the 3D view as if there was a vertical line going up and down the middle of the view. 2 and 8 will rotate the 3D view as if there was a horizontal line going across the middle. If we hold down Control while pressing any of these keys, then we'll pan in that direction. And if you hold down Shift while pressing 4 or 6, you'll essentially do a barrel roll. Recall from earlier that the period or full stop on the number pad will reset the view to the selected object, or if I hold down Shift and select multiple objects, then the full stop will reset the view so that the entire selection is visible. The 3D view can be toggled between global and local view. Everything we've done so far has been in global view. If I hold down Shift and select multiple objects, and then press the slash or the divisor on the number pad, it will change to local view, and you'll see that in the top left. Now, the 3D view consists only of the objects that were selected when I press the slash. And I can edit these objects in my scene without the clutter of everything around them. If I go ahead and press the slash again, the camera resets to where it was when I pressed it originally and went into local view. And you can do this whether you have a single or multiple objects selected. It's a great way to divide your scene between the global stuff and the few things that you care about right now. The asterisk on the number pad does not do anything when the mouse cursor is over the 3D view, so we'll look at the minus and the plus. Quite intuitively, the minus zooms us out and the plus zooms us in. However, just like when using A to select or deselect everything, be careful that your mouse cursor doesn't drift over one of the other UI elements where minus and plus will change the scale of the user interface. If you accidentally do this, move your mouse cursor over the affected area of the user interface and press Home to reset the scale back to the default. The final key on the number pad is the 0 key, and pressing that key will show you your scene through the perspective of the camera. And you can zoom in or zoom out, and as soon as you rotate or move the camera around, you'll leave the camera perspective. But if you press the numpad 0 again, you'll go back to where the camera was at the same zoom level that you left it on. Now we already know that you can use the middle mouse button to rotate, pan, and use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out and position your 3D view. However, you can also use fly mode, activated by pressing Shift and F, and now you'll see there's a 3D cursor in the center of the 3D view, and we can use W, A, S, and D to move around as if this were a first-person game on a computer, and you can use Q and E to move up and down. If we hold Shift while pressing any of these directions, we'll move slightly faster, or you can use the mouse wheel to scroll up or down to speed up or slow down the movement. Now, just like when you right-click and drag objects around your scene, if you right-click or press Escape, you'll leave this view and go back to where you were when you started. However, if you want to keep it and make it permanent, you'll simply position the camera and press Return or left-click, and then that is now where your 3D view will be. Fly mode can also be used to position the camera within the scene. I've gone ahead and placed the sphere at the origin of the camera. Now, when I press the number pad 0, we'll go into the camera's view, and if I do Shift F, I'll start flying around, but within the view of the camera. And we can see the sphere is now back over there. And if I go ahead and do left click, and then press numpad 0 to exit the camera view, we can see that the camera has moved over here and is no longer oriented at the same position as the sphere. This can be a much easier way to try to position your 3D camera than trying to drag it, rotate it within the 3D view. That's going to do it for this Blender Basics video. I hope you found it useful. Please leave a comment or a thumbs up if you did, and I hope so much to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.